In reviewing the 2019 Honda Passport versus the 2019 Honda Pilot, I think back to one of the most unloved companies in the history of the car business, and that is Isuzu. Isuzu was kind of the most made fun of car brand in the entire car industry, especially back in the 1970s. But that was by the general public. The manufacturers themselves thought very highly of Isuzu. In fact, Chevrolet's small pickup truck was built by Isuzu for many years. Acura's SLX was a rebadged Isuzu Trooper, and Honda's Passport was a rebadged Isuzu Rodeo. And the Passport was actually a really cool truck that was available particularly in the late 90s up into the early 2000s with Honda. And that Passport name has been resurrected for 2019 and features the same platform as the 2019 Honda Pilot. So we're going to compare the 2019 Passport and see just how similar or how different it is to the 2019 Honda Pilot. And if I had to pick one, we're going to see which one I would personally prefer. Now, I'm going to admit right out of the gate, the Passport is has a tough task ahead of itself because the Pilot is just about my favorite vehicle in the entire world. And let's start here and take a look. This is a 2019 Honda Pilot Elite, and I'm going to start by popping the hood. So both of these vehicles ride on the same platform, and both have the same Earth Dreams 3.5 liter 6-cylinder engine with 280 horsepower and 262 foot-pounds of torque. It has cylinder deactivation technology, so there's a 6-cylinder power plant here on 2 banks of 3 cylinders. The engine, under low throttle applications, can deactivate the 3 cylinders in the front and run solely on the 3 cylinders in the back. Under higher power, it can give you both, and that's where you get your 280 horsepower. As a result, even though this is a truck that weighs over 4,300 pounds, and with all-wheel drive, and with 0 to 60 times under 7 seconds, which is unbelievable, this is a truck that still averages 21 miles per gallon. Let's take a look around. Now, one of the differences you're going to notice right out of the gate between these two is that the Passport sits a little bit higher than the Pilot does. So the Pilot sits in at just about 7 inches of ground clearance, a little bit better than that. So not totally suited for off-road use, but great if you're going up to the slopes. Well, the Passport has 10% more ride height, and so it has over 8 inches of ground clearance, and that gives you the ability to go over a little bit more rough terrain than you're going to be able to accommodate in the Pilot. So if you like to do a little bit of mini off-road type of driving, big advantage to the Passport. Let's take a look inside. Now, the Pilot is very, very comfortable inside. Tons of headroom, tons of legroom, plus it just looks nice. It has an 8-inch monitor, it has Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, it has park sensors. In fact, it has an entire suite of safety issues that feature laser-guided cruise control and emergency braking, where it does it independent of you if you're about to knock into something. It keeps you on the road, prevents you from going off the road, and it prevents you from steering into your neighbor in the next lane if you think about switching lanes without looking over your shoulder. Tons of room, lots of little cubbies for different creature comforts, just super modern and super nice inside. Let's jump in the back seat. Well, the second row is also very, very comfortable, and again, gobs of headroom. Now, one thing I like about the Pilot over the Passport is that it doesn't have one sunroof, it has 2 great big ones, and so this has a panorama roof, and then it also has a drop-down DVD. Captain's chairs available in the mid-row, so if you have 2 kids that like to bump into each other and create havoc while you're out on the open road, now you have a little space between them with extra storage. other thing I like about the Pilot is the third row seat is simply the best in the industry for any smaller sport utility. This is Cadillac Escalade type third row seat accommodations. Very, very comfortable, even if you're 6 feet tall. I love the Pilot. One of the most practical and one of the nicest driving vehicles on the road. And then you just kick your foot underneath it. Whoops. And the tailgate opens up automatically. Now, over 80 feet of total cargo volume in the Pilot, because it is a fuller size interior, but with 3 rows of seats, it takes up some of that space. So nicely, the third row seats not only fold down, but they fold down flat. So lots and lots of room with the seats down, and then with the seats up, of course, available third row seating. And then extra storage in the back as well. And then little cubbies on either side for headphones or whatever else it is that you have going on. Let's take a look around. So if you like practicality, comfort, luxury, and you have a big crew, you're not going to need to look any further than the Pilot. It's as good as it gets in the entire automobile industry, and at my very, very top of my favorite cars of any kind in any category. I'm a huge believer in the Pilot. However, the Pilot has a new cousin, so to speak, built on the same platform, the new Passport. Let's go take a look. So you can tell right away that the two look different. The front end is all blacked out on the Passport. It has things like fender arch flares and a little bit more ground clearance for going off-road. So it has a sportier look than the Pilot does. Both ride on the exact same 111-inch wheelbase, although the Passport is ultimately 6.5 inches shorter, but underneath it's the same vehicle. Same 280 horsepower engine with 262 pound-feet of torque, same 21 miles per gallon overall driving. One neat thing about the Passport is all 4 models of Passport, all the way from the Sport going up to the top of the line, all come with a different form of 20-inch wheels. So no matter which model you get, you're always going to be looking good. Let's take a look inside. Well, if you like the layout of the Pilot, you're certainly going to like the layout here in the Passport, because it's exactly the exact same layout. However, there is one big advantage with the Passport that you don't get in the Pilot. These front bars right here, that's called the A-pillar, and that's what separates the windshield from the door frame. The ones that separate the front door to the rear door, that's called the B-pillar, and then further back would be called the C-pillar. The A-pillar is much thinner in the Passport than it is in the Pilot. Why that's a big deal, it allows for acres more glass, which means wonderful visibility. Well, visibility is at a premium when you're off-road because you're not in a standard set of circumstances. Who knows what's coming around the corner, from boulders to trees to who knows what, you're off the road. Well, having great visibility is a big advantage to the Passport. Let's take a look in back. Oops. So, just one moonroof in the Passport, where 2 big moonroofs in the Pilot. This has a bench second row seat, and it is super, super comfortable. Like the Pilot, it's what's called theater seating, so the rear seat sits up much higher than the front seat. So I have great visibility in the front. I also have great visibility in the back. Let's take a look in the back. Now, in 2-wheel drive mode, both the Pilot and the Passport can tow 3,500 pounds. In all-wheel drive mode, they can tow 5,000 pounds. That's a surprise for a Japanese small sport utility that it can tow so much. But there's a big question that needs to be asked, and we'll cover it a little bit more in a moment. Is this actually a Japanese sport utility, or is this a modern take on an American sport utility? Now, the cargo room in this is fantastic. It's the best in its category by a bit. It's over 41 cubic feet, even with the rear seats up, and it jumps to almost 80 cubic feet with the seats down. And then that same bonus storage in the back of the Pilot, you enjoy that here in the Passport as well. Lots and lots and lots of space. Taking a look around, well, since it sits taller and it looks a little bit chunkier, it really does have kind of a nice look. It kind of reminds me how I used to feel about older 4Runners. It's just cool. Something about it is very agreeable, and I think this would be a fun car to be seen in at a minimum. Let's take a look inside. So, both the Pilot and the Passport are made in Alabama. In fact, Honda's been building cars in the United States for decades now and are one of the dominant car manufacturers in the entire Midwest. Been that way for years and years and years. It comes to a point where you start wondering, is Honda even a Japanese vehicle manufacturer anymore? Yes, they still build vehicles in Japan. Their headquarters are still in Japan, but they build vehicles all over the world, and they've been so entrenched in the American car scene for so long, and they've built such an enormous amount of vehicles in the United States, especially their truck platforms that are built in Alabama, that you have to ask yourself, if so many American car manufacturers are building their cars in Mexico and Canada, and Honda is so invested in the United States, is Honda an import company that manufactures vehicles in the United States, or is Honda simply a domestic vehicle manufacturer? And is this, the new Passport or even the Honda Pilot, simply the new American sport utility? That's something that you need to decide. I need to decide which one of these two I would pick if it were me. Well, it's a no-brainer. I would absolutely pick the Pilot. I love it to death. Third row seat that's so easy to get in and out of. It's just a little bit more spacious. It's just a little bit more luxurious for a family. However, if I didn't have a big family and I wanted something that was a little bit more cool, I'll be the first to admit the Pilot is a little bit sedate. It's a little bit plain. Well, the Passport's not that way at all. The Passport's neat. It's interesting. It's cool. It's new. No one else has one. It sits a little bit taller. It looks a little bit cooler. Everything about it is really, really nice. It's a decision you can't go wrong on, and if you do buy a Passport, you're absolutely going to love it. And if you have any questions about the Pilot or the Passport, please don't hesitate to reach out to me anytime. My name's Joe Tunney. You can reach me at joeloveshawaii@gmail.com.